PixelPoint offers two reporting systems for the back office, and we're going to take a look at the first of the two of them. Within General Setup, we have Data Miner Client, and so we're going to take a look at PixelPoint Data Miner. This is the Data Miner screen, and on here we have three general areas. The first area is the Reports section on the left-hand side. Now this gives all of the different categories that the reports can apply to, where they're all sectioned off. This second area here is the report template window, and within here we have all of the report templates that apply to that specific application. So for example, I selected on sales. These are all sales related reports. The third area is the results section down at the bottom here, and this contains all of the reports that actually have been run. So when you're running a report, you're actually executing one of the templates, which then generates the report, which comes up down at the bottom. So to run a report, just basically select on the desired one. Let's say, for example, I'm going to do a product sales report, and just double click on it. Now in doing this, it will come up with, first of all, the criteria or the parameters for this given report. And you will see here I've got two sets, required and optional. Required means that you have to fill this out. You have to select on these in order for this report to run. So in this case, it's looking for a date range, and so I'm going to select a date range for that. I also have optional. And within here, you can select other criteria as well, such as I want to filter it down by report category or by product, summary group, whatever the case. These vary with each report. Now with that selected, then I'm going to select on Run. Now what's happening now is the system's going in and it's calculating out all the numbers within this report and putting it all together. Now a data miner report is a three-dimensional report. Now what I mean by this is that it's not just going to give you the plain old two-dimensional report like what we're looking at now, but it's going to allow you the ability to mine down into the contents of this to come up with the numbers that actually made up these various totals. Now the first thing we're looking at here is the report view rendition of the sales by product report. And you'll see within here it looks just like a plain old reporting system. There's all the numbers, and from here I can print this off. Now within this I can also select on the view. I've got sales by product, and some of these reports may offer some variations on this. For example, I want to see it by report category, I want to see it by summary group, or whatever the case. And these variations will all be made available on here as well. Now along with this, I have a number of different tabs that are also available right across the top here. Right now we're looking at Report View. But also I can change this over to a graph view, for example. Whatever the contents are, I can break it out by that. I can also go to the Data Miner view. Now the Data Miner view is where you can really play around with the numbers. And in here, this is where we go about mining down into our data. So what we're looking at right now is the summary group rendition of this. Okay, so here, for example, my summary groups are beverage and food for my sales. The information that's shown, the data itself, is quantity, value, and the average value for each of these. Now what I can do is I can expand on this. For example, I can say, okay, for my beverages, I sold 41 beverages. Let's break it down a little further. What really made up that number? I can then select on the plus sign next to beverage, and I'm now to the report category level. So I've now mined down into my data to determine that my beverage sales were made up of drinks and also of coffee as well. And within this, I can break it down even further. Okay, within my drinks, what drinks specifically comprised of the quantity of 25? Again, I can mine down into that. I'm now into the product level of this, and you'll see now I've got the individual products and what the quantities were for each one of those. And the system is allowing me to dig down even further again, and I can break it down into individual product IDs within there. Now along with this as well, there's a lot of flexibility to the system. Within some of the things you can do here, for example, I can select on the title bar right above the column, any given column, and by clicking on it I can sort in ascending or descending order on any column. Along with this as well, I can play around with some of the other information that shows up within here just by right-clicking on it. So for example, a right-click, and within this it's showing me right now the sum value of that. But I can also, for example, say, all right, the percentage of the row, or I can add in, for example, the ranking within the row, and I can add in all kinds of information like this, and it just automatically comes in, and you can do that with any one of these as well. There's a lot more that you can do with this. I'm just giving you a quick overview in terms of some of the things you can do within the Data Miner system, but please refer to the various manuals for this. Now, along with the Data Miner as well, I can also go into a freestyle mode with this. You'll notice in the top left corner here, I've got this little icon that says Hide Pivot Panels. Now, if I select on this, I am now removing the rigidity of the system, and I can now play around with all of these different settings and so on. So for example, I want to take out summary group altogether. Then I can actually click and drag this up to the empty line up at the top, and now report or summary group is not even part of the equation. I can also stretch information across the top as well. So for example, I want to stretch it out by report category. So you'll see now there's my report category of breakfast, the next one of grill, and I can scroll across for many others as well. And then the grouping down the left-hand side is now down to product level. And I can actually take this information and I can change around the orders of these as well. So there's the product ID, and then from there I can expand on that to show the product name. So you can put these in any order you want, and you can take things and stretch them across the top, and I can also take them out of the equation altogether. And within this, I can go, let's say, by report category, then by summary group. So there, for example, is breakfast under the food summary group, or I can change the order of these across. There's my beverages, and within there, there's drinks. The last one here is Simple View, and Simple View will basically take all the conventional data and just put it into a very simple format, and so that's all available for you here in this form. We also have one more tab as well, which is called Properties. And within Properties, when you run this, you can actually go in, for example, you can add in some notes pertaining to the report. You can also manage as far as the mapping of your data, and also it will identify what the report parameters were as well. And if you, for any reason, needed to dig right down into the contents of some of the data that showed up, then you can expand on that within the Information Explorer. This is really something most people would not need to do, is go into any of this stuff. The most common application for this would be the report view itself. By selecting on that, then you will come up with this view and you can print this off. And if you wanted to play around with your data, then I would recommend going into the Data Miner section and just kind of experimenting around with that. If at any time you need to remove any one of these reports, you'll see it shows down in here. There's that product sales report that I just generated. Just select on that, right click, and you can go down to delete, and that will remove that report from the section.